For the lowdown on the Eagles against the Carolina Panthers this Sunday, we go to the man who covers the Eagles for ESPN.com. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. He is Tim McManus. Hello, Tim.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Fantastic. All right, Tim, listen, we all know the numbers. I mean, the Panthers give up 30.5 points per game. They don't stop the rush. The quarterback's playing a little better. But the defense of the Eagles is just shackling teams, and especially bad teams. So how do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to picture Carolina coming in here and pulling off the upset. We know that the NFL is kind of quirky and strange things happen, and this is a team in the Panthers that is getting a little bit better. And they took Tampa to overtime last week and have been showing a little something. Bryce Young is getting better, but just every facet goes in Philadelphia's favor. So assuming that they don't completely shoot themselves in the foot with like 3 turnovers and aren't up for this game, it should be a pretty comfortable win for Philadelphia, I would imagine.
All right, so I guess you had a chance to watch the Lions last night, and everybody's now making this comparison on what could possibly happen. The Lions pretty much secured a number 1 seed last night. The Eagles now are down to a 12% chance to get that, so they're pretty much locked into the 2 seed. So in a match of the Eagles and Lions in an NFC title game, right now, who's got the edge?
Well, so it would be in Detroit, and I think that's significant, Mike. If it's in Philly, I feel like the Eagles would have the edge. I think that they would be favored, especially considering that Detroit's defense has really taken a lot of hits injury-wise on the defensive side of the ball. But Jared Goff, I think, is a different quarterback in a dome and at home specifically. I think that passing attack is different. And so I think that they would be slight favorites going into that one. But by the narrowest of margins, I mean, they are pretty clearly the top 2 teams in the NFC. I think it would be a remarkable matchup, and it kind of feels destined for it, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it really does. I don't think I'm looking at these NFC teams that can leak in there, and I don't think any of them are as strong as the Eagles and the Lions here. So I think they're on a collision course. So my question is, how have the Eagles been able to stay so consistently good? I mean, we saw the team last year, and they were 10-1. We always felt flimsy about them, but this year is just completely the opposite. What have they done to buckle this down in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, the entire environment is different. Like when we were sitting here at this point in the season, this is just when the losing streak was starting, and it was like the first sign of a crack. The first loss, like there was people ready to come out and vent, whether it was privately or publicly, about what was going on with this team. There just was a lack of satisfaction in what was happening on the field. And, I don't think that people felt like the coaching was really up to snuff, if we're perfectly honest about it. And this year it's totally different. I mean, it's very clear that Vic Fangio is maximizing the talent that he has on the defensive side of the ball. And the decision offensively for these guys to lean into Saquon Barkley in the ground game just really can't be argued with. So I feel like there is a general satisfaction with approach this year. I think there's less kind of like hangover / pressure that's associated from directly coming off of a Super Bowl loss, where everybody was just in like, even in wins, we're just in kind of like this, kind of sour mood. And it's much different. It's a more joyful building. There is less like weight on collective shoulders, and you can tell chemistry is a very weird thing. It's hard to explain exactly when a team has it and when it doesn't and why, but this group definitely has it. So all those things are clicking and have kind of snowballed to the point where we are now with 8 consecutive wins and the team feeling really good about itself.
Is there anything that we should feel iffy about? I mean, the obvious was the end rush, but that hasn't hurt them so far, even though they lost BG. They managed to plug it in last week. So what's left? What could we possibly be worried about that would prevent this team from playing an NFC title game?
So there's 3 things in my mind. One is still the edge group. They can't afford another injury. Like, what would that even look like if one of those guys ended up going down? And at some point, does that come back to bite him? So that is still on my radar. And the second two are about usage. So Saquon Barkley, heading into that Baltimore game, was on pace for 50 more carries than he's ever had in his career. And you wonder, does he start to slow down given the heavy workload? There's still 5 of these regular season games left before they go and what they hope is a deep playoff run. Can he sustain like that Superman type ability down the stretch? And then on the other side of the ball, the other very important player is Jalen Carter. And he's already played, Mike, 56 more snaps than he did of the entire last season. And he played 99% of the snaps last week. 3 weeks ago, he played 100% of the snaps. Over the last 3 weeks, it's 191 snaps out of a possible 201. And does he start to slow down? Because the attack defensively, especially along the defensive front, would look much different if you're not getting that full board Jalen Carter. So those are the 3 things that I have my eye on.
What do you see in Jalen Carter? Like, he had this reputation of not being a hard worker, and so this plays right into what you just said. Do you see him as a guy that can keep up that physical pace?
Yeah, I mean, to this point, he's definitely shown maturity in his second year, and there's no question that his conditioning has gotten a whole lot better. And I think Vic Fangio's approach of working these guys during the week on the defensive side of the ball, and Sirianni's decision to have them in pads a lot, has helped with the collective conditioning across the board, and with Carter in particular. But I don't know if he can keep it up, and that wouldn't even go back to his conditioning so much as defensive linemen just don't play that much in modern football. So, can he do it? I think, that's an open-ended question that, will help sway how strong this defense is down the stretch.
Tim, bringing it back to this Carolina Panthers game, I'm looking for matchups that maybe the Panthers would have the advantage, and I'm not seeing any. So I want to ask you just about the injuries for this Eagles team. Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, Dallas Goedert, are those the 3 guys that are going to miss the game for the Eagles?
Yeah, it feels that way. And so I think you can look at maybe safety. That's pretty thin right now with Sidney Brown probably not going, and Reed Blankenship still in concussion protocol and probably not going. Means that you're, getting into your depth there. So that's one area to look at. And then on, dealing with Goddard being injured again, I would say that they're probably a little bit better positioned now, Bill, just because of the ascension of Grant Calcaterra. I think he's done a pretty solid job in Goddard's absence and just overall this year. But that's another thing. It's like if Goddard has to miss several weeks, that's one less weapon for Jalen Hurts.
All right, let's play around here and I want to give you a couple of hypotheticals just for funsy. So Saquon, you've mentioned about the workload. Let's say he needs 100 yards in the final game of the year to break Dickerson's record.
Mm-hmm.
What would they do
if the game doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think. Well, the game pretty much isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
So,
I think they'd rest him.
You think they'd rest him?
I think they'd rest him, and I think he'd want to be rested. Yeah, he certainly knows about it, cares about it to a certain extent, but anything that he's ever talked about when those kind of situations are up is more about like his desire for the Super Bowl, and I don't just think that's lip service. I think that's real. So yeah, I think they would.
How about if he needs 60 yards?
It's like maybe get him in for a half or something like that, and then pull.
Yeah, in other words, give him a shot at it. Because that's the key. Like if you give him a shot, you're still putting him on the plank here.
Yeah, I still think you would rest him because Mike, could you imagine if the game didn't mean anything, Saquon goes in there chasing yards and he gets hurt?
Yeah, I get it, but this is an all-time record, Tim.
Yeah, Sirianni might not ever come back from that one, man.
All right, and here's the other hypothetical. Speaking of Sirianni, last night it was brought up today in the press conference, but he weaseled out of it. It's 4th and 1, and what Campbell's thinking is that he can waste the rest of the clock. He doesn't want to give the ball back, so he goes for it. Now, I would have never done that. I get a chance to go ahead 3, and I trust my defense to waste 40 seconds. I certainly would have done it that way. He did it the other way. What do you think Sirianni would have done in that situation?
Well, he's got the tush push in the back pocket.
That's true.
Inches,
That's true.
and he's got the 92% thing going on there. That could sway him one way, but I feel like Campbell was probably influenced by the fact that his defense was on fumes.
Yeah.
It's there weren't a whole lot of bodies left. So because this defense is playing really well, I think Sirianni would probably kick the field goal there. But it's a toss-up. But I would lean him kicking the field goal.
See,
there.
I would have loved to hear what he had to say about that today, and the question was asked improperly to him, and it gave him a chance to weasel out of it. But so this is what
he said he fell asleep. You buying that?
Yeah, no, I'm not buying that because he gets the word at first thing in the morning. Dom is in his ear telling him what happened last night.
Yeah, no shot. He was sleeping there.
Yeah, no shot. He was sleeping, and even if he was told about it. He knew the situation. All right, Tim, I'm going to leave you with this because I'm about to set a line on some high school playoff games.
Ooh.
And I notice that LaSalle, the Kingslayer of St. Joseph Prep, is not in the 6A. What happened to the Explorers? Your alma mater, LaSalle College High School.
Yeah, I guess they peaked in that 4 overtime victory over the Prep back in the regular season, Mike, huh?
And so one loss to the Prep knocked them out of the playoffs?
I guess so. But you know what? Brett Gordon in his first year, super solid, man. You watch out for those Explorers over the next handful of seasons. They're coming. They're coming.
All right. Of course, there's a proud LaSalle playing at Penn State. It'd probably be a top 5 pick. Right?
That's right.
All right. Timmy, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you.
All right, Mike. Have a good one.
All right.